Hello, it's Leslie here. Today I'm going to review the Garmin Varia radar. A lot of people who haven't tried this are sort of questioning how useful it is. So I've ridden with this now for a couple of weeks and I do find it very useful. I'll explain why. First of all, it doesn't just tell you when there are cars or vehicles coming. It also tells you when there's no cars, which might not be that obvious at first. So it gives you a peace of mind that. So what it does is it tells you how many cars are coming, how far away they are, and how fast they are incoming. So that's useful information, especially the number of cars, because you know without this device you can hear that there's cars or a car coming, but you're not sure if it's one, two, three, or whatever. So it's not often that a product comes along where it makes cycling more enjoyable, but this is a product that I found has made my life a bit more enjoyable on the bike. I'll explain why. Several years ago, I had an accident on on my road bike, and I was sideswiped at 40 kilometers an hour, and I hit the deck and fractured my right wrist, and everything was grazed, road rash, everything, and I ended up in hospital. Then a year later, I had another crash where a car parked right in front of me, and this wouldn't have prevented those accidents. But what I'm saying is, I developed a kind of a phobia of cycling in Australia after those two accidents. So soon after those two accidents, I went to live in Spain, and it's cycling's a lot more. The cars are a lot more friendly towards cyclists. Coming back here though, in Australia, uh, they're not so nice, especially on the main roads. They're not so nice. And what I found was happening was when I started to get back into road riding again after I had this foot reconstruction, I was very nervous about whether there are any cars behind me, and I'd try to look around my shoulder. I'm a bit older now, so I'd crane my neck around, it'd hurt my neck. Then I'd lose my balance a little bit, and I'd be wobbly a little bit and lose my line just when I needed to maintain my line the most when a car's coming. So this device has kind of cured my phobia of riding on road again. So I think it's very valuable to me. I don't think I'd ride without it on road anymore. If I was in my 20s, I'd probably look at this gadget and think it's a bit useless. I could just look around me. It's a bit like a cycling mirror. I think, well, it weighs down your bike. It's something else you have to recharge. I probably would not bother with it. But with age, I try to find more enjoyment in cycling, and so this really helps in a lot of situations. And it's quite good. It works. It won't pick up cars that are coming towards you, and then if a car's coming towards you and then it keeps going behind you, so in other words it's going away from you, it won't see that car, or it will see it. Like, yeah, the radar knows it's there, but it won't show you on the display that a car's going away from you. So it only works when cars are coming towards you from behind. So I found it useful. It won't pick up perpendicular traffic, like if traffic's going behind you. I live on a road that's 90 degrees coming off a main road. So if I go to the end of that, turn around, come back, and I've got the highway traffic going behind me, perpendicular, it won't see any of that. It'll ignore all of that. If you go on at a 45-degree angle away from that, it will pick up the cars then coming towards you from an angle, because yes, they are, coming towards you. I found it useful in a bunch of situations. If you're about to do a U-turn, you don't have to look over your shoulder to know there's something there. Like if this, I've got the Wahoo. I've set it up with the Wahoo bolt. If it's saying there's a car there, I don't even try to make the U-turn. I just think, well, there's a car there. I won't look over my shoulder. So it doesn't prevent me looking over my shoulder. If this says there's no cars there, I don't just blindly do a U-turn. I'd still look over my shoulder. But what it's telling is there's a car. Don't even bother attempting it. You know. So I only look over my shoulder now when the Wahoo says there's no cars there. It does detect cars before you can hear them most of the time. Like, I don't know, I would say it's probably about 90% of the time, if not 95% of the time, this thing tells you there's a car 140 meters away. Now, if you're stopped in the middle of a forest or something like that, you can hear cars coming from a long way away, like probably 200 meters away. But when you're actually going, you've got the wind in your ears and you can't hear as much. So it's very useful when you're going along and you've got no idea there's a car up there. This is almost like what I would say a sixth sense. It's like having, I read a review that it says it's the next best thing to having eyes in the back of your head. And that made me kind of want to try it. And I don't regret buying it. So let me just pause that. So it's very useful in a lot of situations. If you're about to make a U-turn, you've got to look behind you to see if there's a car coming. If you're about to make, in Australia, it would be a right turn over the other line of traffic, or if you're in Europe or the US, if you're about to make a left turn, you've got to look behind you. So again, if the Wahoo display or your Garmin says there's a car, why would you even bother attempting to go? You know, you don't even look behind. You just say, well, I'll wait until it's telling me that it's free. It's very useful, I found. So the U-turns, left, turning over traffic. When there's a car coming towards you, and I live in a rural area, I should say. I don't live in the city. So I'm cycling in rural areas. I don't cycle in multiple lane city roads. It's probably useless for that. But if I'm cycling in the middle of nowhere and there's a car coming towards me, that blocks out the sound from behind. So if there's a car coming towards you, you're not really sure if there's a car coming behind, unless you look over your shoulder, because you can't. It blocks out the sound. So with this varia, if there's a car coming towards you, you can just quickly glance down at your display, and you'll see whether there's cars behind you or not. Now, if you don't have it, you got no idea. So that's another situation where it's very useful. When some cars overtake you from behind, say there's, without this, you don't know how many there are. There could be 2, 3. With this, say there's 2 cars that have just overtaken me, and I think, well, are there any more or not? You can't tell whether there are any more with all that noise. So previously, if say 1 or 2 cars overtook me, I'd be wondering, well, is that the end of it, or is there going to be more cars? With this, you just quickly glance down, and it says that's the end of the car train, mate. So it's peace of mind. Now, what I was saying before is that it doesn't just tell you when there's cars coming. By conversely, it tells you when there's no cars. So I was worried a lot of the time, almost, I wouldn't say paranoid, but getting a bit, I don't know if the word's pathological. I was always looking over my shoulder thinking, is that a car coming? Is that a car coming? And it might have been one coming from the front. Or it might have been just the wind in the trees and there was nothing coming. right? Whereas with this, it's kind of peace of mind. There was actually a lot less cars on the road than I thought there was. So this allows you to just sort of forget about the cars until you hear it beep. So that's one of the reasons I like it. It almost lets you just relax. There's nothing coming, and just set it up. I've set it up so far so that it beeps when there's a car coming. I kind of wish it would just beep when it senses a car. Not also, it will also beep when they overtake you. I wish you could turn the beep off where they overtake you, but you can't seem to do that. You get all the beeps or nothing. But what I'm saying is, it's just peace of mind. You know, you can assume if this isn't beeping and there's nothing on your display, you don't even have to look at the display, because there's no cars coming until you hear the beep. Right? So it's pretty much the default. There's nothing coming, and you can relax. Whereas before the varia, I was always looking over my shoulder, a bit paranoid. So I think it's really made my on-road cycling a lot more enjoyable, and I've overcome my fear of cars, having had 2 accidents. I think it's reasonably priced. This is 215 Australian dollars. The entry is a bit high. I bought this Wahoo to get this. To get the, you can't just buy this on its own. You need a display. And I thought, well, rather than just have the varia radar display and nothing, I might as well get a cycle computer. So before that I had nothing. The price of entry is pretty steep if you have to add in the cycle computer as well. I bought my cycle computer, I got it with my Qantas points, because we can't fly anywhere anyway with the coronavirus thing, and I thought I'm going to be annoyed if Qantas goes bankrupt and I lose my points. So I got that with Qantas, so that was good. Now the thing what I also will say is that it does require a smartphone, because, well, at least with the Wahoo it does. So here's my old smartphone here, HTC One X. When I bought my Wahoo Bolt, it worked, but it didn't link up with the varia until I got the update. So you need a new smartphone to do the update on Wahoo Bolt to get that to work. So that's, if you don't have a smartphone and you want the Wahoo Bolt, that's 3 things you need to buy, and it ends up being $900. So, or whatever, to get this going, to get it all working happily. So I've had to pay out $285 for a second-hand smartphone with Android that worked on it, and $215 for this thing to get it working. Luckily I didn't have to pay for this. I got it free with Qantas points. But like what I'm saying, if you have to buy it all, that's $900 if you don't have a smartphone that can work. I would suggest borrowing a smartphone and make it a bit cheaper for yourself if you have an older smartphone. So I'll say a few more things about the varia, because I don't want to, it's not a Wahoo Bolt review, it's a varia review. It's kind of small and it's kind of lightweight. I think it weighs 60 grams. It would be nicer if it was a little bit smaller and a little bit lighter. Yes, it's always nicer when things are smaller and lighter. I think it'd be nicer to fit it under the seat rather than on the seat post, because I'm running out of room on my seat post. I have already another light. I didn't want to get the inbuilt light in this thing. I didn't like that version. I wanted my own light. It'd be nicer if it was up mounted behind the saddle rails, I think, because you could see there was one time I could see a car. I turned around and I saw this car coming, and this hadn't averted me, and it was because it was over the crest of a hill and around a bend. And the higher up it is you mount it on your bike, the further it will see over hills. So it would be nicer if the battery was longer than 5 hours, because that means, you know, you can only go on a couple of rides and you've got to recharge it again. I already have a lot of things to recharge. It does tell you when, with the Wahoo Bolt, it does tell you when you are running out of battery, but it doesn't say what the battery level is or how much further you can go. So I think it's important to make sure it's recharged. What else will I say? It'd be nice if you told you how much battery life is left. I have a few suggestions to make it better. There's not that many ways to make it better. It'd be nice if the cars, what happens is you'll see the cars coming up the side. It'd be really nice if they, sometimes they're coming up from behind and then all of a sudden they disappear. And it's because they've turned into a driveway or they've turned left or right. It'd be nice if you saw a little display that they turn left or right, rather than just the thing vanishing, because the car doesn't vanish. It's either stopped or it's turned left or right. It'd be nice if you just got a little bit more info about what happened to that car. And it'd be nice, really good, I think, if it could tell you the difference between a truck and a car and a motorcycle. It would help. I think that would be a really good feature if you gave you a giant truck icon and then, or a bus, and then a car and a motorbike. Sometimes I've had it pick up bicycles behind me. I've been riding along, and then all of a sudden, very close behind me, here somewhere, you know, all of a sudden there'll be a little indication of a car, and it's a bike, and it's usually a cheap bike because they're steel or something that picks up cheaper bikes that are steel. I think that's my theory. I haven't had it pick up a carbon bike yet. Anyway, so that's one thing. It'd be nice if you could adjust the sensitivity a little bit. But that's not such a big deal. It's not like a deal breaker. So for me, I'm happy with it. I'm going to continue riding with it. It does make my rides more enjoyable. I could just forget about cars until I hear the beep. It's also, the other thing I should say, it's also good when you're going downhill, because when you're going downhill, usually you're going faster, there's more wind noise in your ears, and also you tend to be in the middle of the lane. You're not, if you're going 60 kilometers an hour, you're not right over to the edge of the road anymore. You usually come in the middle. So it's really good then, I've found, it really works if you're coming downhill. You want to know if there's a car behind you or not. So that's my review of the Garmin Varia. Yeah, I think it's one of those inventions I wouldn't have thought of it. I'm glad that they had thought of it. Someone thought of the idea, and it's one of those products I never thought I needed to have. But having used it in rural areas, I really like riding with it. As I said though, it'd be nice if you could turn the beeps off for me as cars overtake, because you know when they're overtaking you, because you can see them out of the corner of your eye. But it's nice to have the beep when they're 140 meters behind you, because it wakes you up out of your little ride daydreaming. So yeah, that's all I have to say about the Garmin Raider. I think actually there's a couple of more things I'm going to say about that. One is, I think the mounting, I'm not that keen on the mounting. It's pretty heavy for what it is. the mounting brackets. Like I say, I would actually prefer it to be a bit smaller and mounted on my saddle rails, because then I'd free up more room on my seat post for my light, my daylight, and my saddlebag. At the moment, I can't fit a light, this, and a saddlebag. It just won't fit. So, yeah. The other thing people have commented on is when you turn it on, they've said that light, you can't see it. But that hasn't been a problem for me. I think, yeah, it's a little bit dim outside, but that's not an issue for me. I know when it's on, you know. It does change colour when it's recharging, and I think when it's low battery, I believe. But it's not an issue for me. So it's a really good product, and it's not often a product comes along, like I said, that makes your riding more enjoyable, but I think this is one of those. So thank you for watching. Bye.